Captain Rick Rock TV. Let's get to the content.
All right, let's get straight to the content. We're going to jump back on this Big U situation, and we're going to do a reaction to Brian Blank. And this one is titled, Big U Gets Huge Victory in Court. Government Agrees Not to Bring Up DNA Evidence. You all remember the young football player that was found unalived in Las Vegas, and it was this big old thing about DNA up under his fingernails. Well, I guess they choose not to use that in court. We're going to get straight to this content. And if that's true, if that's the case, man, that's a big victory on his behalf. One thing I hate to see when somebody get locked up, man. And, you know, a lot of people been running the content on this, man. He's never coming home. Everybody done ran it. And if he do come home, man, that's good for him, man. I don't think that he even tripping off none of this stuff. We haven't heard Big U make one phone call from that jailhouse, that federal spot that he at. We haven't seen him on the phone. We haven't heard him on the phone like we heard other guys on the phone. So let's jump straight into this content and see what they talking about over here. Let's go.
Now, a couple of days ago, I made a video on Big U's current situation, updating y'all on what I was seeing in the paperwork. Specifically, we zoomed in on a motion that Big U and his co-defendants had filed challenging the presentation of expert testimony when it came to DNA. Specifically, he was saying that on March 19th, the government disclosed a forensic expert that they plan to use and a copy of her report. They were saying that the government's homicide theory is that Mr. Henley shot RW and dragged his body into the desert. The government alleges DNA collected from RW's ankle sock area is consistent with the direction that RW was dragged, and it further asserts Mr. Robinson was excluded while Mr. Henley's DNA was inconclusive. The actual report says that Henley and Robinson were excluded from the black socks, and the rest of it was informative, meaning that it could not be used to say that he was involved nor that he wasn't involved. Big U was saying that this slight but very, very big misrepresentation to the court is what helped secure a search warrant. Well, part of it, and this is why this information is also included in his motion to suppress the search warrants, but it's also included in his motion to exclude certain expert testimony. The government has responded to these accusations, and they've offered, a meeting ground, I could call it. In this response, which was filed just yesterday, the government says that through their motion, the defendants have informed the government that they believe DNA evidence is irrelevant to this trial. They go on to say if the defendants intend to tell the jury that Henley's DNA was not found on RW's body or some other misleading representation, the government needs to present this evidence. Otherwise, the government will stipulate not to introduce this evidence if neither side mentions DNA to the jury. So they basically saying that if Big U were to get up there, if he were to present, some testimony that his DNA was not found on the victim, then they would need to come in and say, hey, the DNA evidence that we found was inconclusive.
Well, anyway, where did that come from? Where they said it was DNA up under the guy's fingernails that was Big U? Did that come from the internet, or was that actual evidence in this case? And do that matter? Do that even matter? Let's get to this.
It doesn't say that his DNA wasn't found. It just said we don't know whose DNA it is, right? But other than that, if Big U agrees not to do that, then they won't mention DNA at all, which tells you that the DNA evidence that everybody has been going on and on about is not what people have been making it appear to be. It's not what people have been presenting it as. If the government has solid DNA evidence against Big U, they would most certainly be attempting to bring it in. They would not be negotiating whether or not they are going to bring it in. They certainly wouldn't stipulate to not mentioning DNA at all.
Well, that seemed like that was one of the big that was something that was big in this case right here, man. Everything else, he might got action. If he could beat this hot one, I think this is the most serious case out of all this stuff. If he could beat this charge right here, then he might be coming home sooner than we think. They saying, why you pushing the clapping sound? Because, man, I don't want to see nobody locked up, man. Why y'all want to see him locked up, man? It is what it is, man. If he could beat this charge right here, then he might got action, man.
And that's even if, like, y'all got to understand, I know they saying inconclusive, but most of the time this conclusion is reached by, odds. So think of how small the odds have to be for the DNA to be inconclusive. Not to mention that when it comes to his socks, the DNA was actually, they both excluded, but that's kind of tricky considering they said he was dragged by his ankles. So if they would have left DNA on his ankles, you would think that it would be on his socks. I don't know. That's for the experts. But what I can say is, like I said, if the DNA evidence was something solid or incriminating, they would not be negotiating it at all. So hopefully this can put the whole DNA conversation to rest. Another thing that would,
other than that DNA, then how can they even tie this to him? Now, I didn't heard all the other stories. We didn't all heard it. I'm not fit to go back and pull up none of them clips. But don't you think that the DNA is the most important piece to all this right here? That's all we kept on hearing in the beginning. It was DNA up under the guy's nails.
Addressed in this is the weather conditions. Now, Big U was saying he don't want them bringing up this stuff at all. But if they are to bring it up, there are certain things he want excluded because they are based on, opinions that these people don't have. These were made by the officers who don't have expertise and training in this. But the government is saying, we agree not to bring it up at all if you don't bring it up. But if we are going to be in this situation, then we have to address, the things that will happen if we do bring it up. One of those is the weather conditions. They say environmental effects on DNA, including the conditions under which DNA may degrade, is standard forensic science. Defendant's citation to scientific literature on DNA stability under extreme conditions is a matter for cross-examination, not admissibility. So they basically saying that if you want to question whether or not this DNA is reliable based on the weather conditions, then you need to bring that up on cross-examination and not try to block the judge from bringing it in. The judge ain't no weather expert. But what they are missing to me in this situation is that Big U is saying that this testimony or this information regarding the weather conditions was presented by the officer, not by a forensic scientist. So even though y'all saying it's standard forensic science, he doesn't have standard forensic science training. So he shouldn't have been offering information and explanations like that.
Right. If you ain't got no training in it, you can't make no call on it. Man, they be want to lock you up so bad, man, that they'll rush the process and mess something up, man, because they want to get you so bad.
Put in the affidavit that the complaint that possibly the weather affected the DNA samples. You don't know that. You don't know that. So like there were a lot of assumptions and conclusions reached by this dude who does not have expert training. That's what Big U is challenging. In the process is getting the government to acknowledge certain things. Like I said, one of which is this DNA situation. By him challenging the presentation of the DNA, it has caused the government to double back and say, well, look, if you don't bring up DNA, we won't bring up DNA. Which is a huge win. It's a huge win.
If you don't bring it up, we won't bring it up. I ain't heard nothing like that before. That mean they ain't got nothing. I tell them bring it up. Bring it up. We gonna bring it up because I need y'all to prove this. Prove it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a win. What do y'all think? Y'all think he should bring it up? Or do y'all think he should leave it alone? Like they said, if you don't mention it, we don't mention it. That's a huge win. If he could beat this murder, then he good.
Part of the reason why I do this, is just to bring the truth out. Not that I know anything, I wasn't there, but I'm able to see the paperwork and read it. I see guys like Wack 600 get on here and just flat out lie to y'all. And I go look at the paperwork to see, and I see the complete opposite, and it's crazy to me, So I heard some of the little chirping that been going on, man, and I ain't worried about it. One thing I do want to say is that Big U's hearings haven't happened yet. They won't happen until the judge issue gets resolved. Until he gets the issue with who's going to be the judge resolved, then we probably won't hear much about the hearings. In the meantime, they just arguing, going back and forth, and sorting it out. Huge win for Big U. Huge win for Big U. Government agrees not to bring up DNA. Huge win. Now it's a matter of breaking down the other fabricated parts of the story, because a lot of people have reached conclusions on this based on the information that was in the complaint, the original charge and document. Now we are getting a chance to see that much of what was in the document is just officer assumptions and conclusions, and the evidence doesn't support that at all. With that said, though, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Stay tuned.
I'm gonna wrap it up too, man. Y'all go over here to Brian. What's his name? Brian Blake. Here you can actually see that he's read some document. Yes, Brian Blake. Y'all go over there and subscribe to his channel. Let's go ahead and get him up. He got 40,000 subscribers. Brian Blake. But anyway, man, leave y'all thoughts in the comment section. What do y'all think about this? Is this a huge win for Big U? Do y'all think he got action of getting up out of here? What do y'all think, man? Do y'all think that they got more than what they have on him? They said, if you don't bring it up, we won't bring it up. To me, that seemed like that's a huge win. Sad for the, it's just a sad situation, man, because you do got somebody on the other end that's unalive. My condolence goes out to his family. And that's a sad situation, man. But at the same time, man, if they can't prove this, then you can't put it on nobody. So what do y'all think? Leave y'all thoughts in the comment section, man. It's Compton Rick Rock with Compton Rick Rock TV. I'll catch all of y'all on the next one. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Compton Rick Rock TV. Also, hit that notification bell and catch every video when I drop.